you only won because you're a girl. They probably just wanted you for the promotional ads. Girls' brains are smaller than boys' brains. Sitting alone in this classroom and hearing these comments. And I actually really broke down. I was really distraught by this. They say injustice is a great place for resolve to take hold. So spurred by this feeling and the injustice of it, I started GirlBoss. It then grew to be what it is today.
Alexia Hilbertidou, the powerhouse behind GirlBoss New Zealand, the country's largest young women's leadership and business movement. At just 16, she founded GirlBoss to help young women lead with confidence, ambition, and purpose. Her impact has been recognized by Forbes, the United Nations, and Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, who awarded her the Queen's Young Leader Medal for her influence across the Commonwealth. This episode is about breaking ceilings, building confidence, and creating opportunities.
I get this phone call. Someone from the team at the royal family says, Alexia, we're flying you over to Buckingham Palace. You're receiving this medal from the Queen. And I sort of hang up the phone. And the absolute first thing I think is,
Just a quick note, this podcast is for education and entertainment purposes only. If you need financial advice, please make sure you contact a financial advisor to get professional advice. Talofa lava, welcome to the Fresh Moni podcast. I'm Willie Leota, your host, and this is the podcast where we talk about all things money. So from personal finance, business, investment. If it involves money, we're going to be talking about it. And the whole goal of this podcast is to empower Pasifika and Māori and everyone really who's listening in to firstly talk about money so that we can get better with it. Alexia, welcome to Fresh Moni. It's an honour to have you here.
Oh, talofa lava, warm Pacific greetings. It is fantastic to be here in the room and to be in the headphones of this awesome community. I'm so excited to be here.
Sweet. Thank you so much. You have done so much and you're only 26, is that right?
It was my birthday 2 days ago.
I was going to say happy birthday. For
I know.
2 days, the 10th.
This is my birthday gift, being here with you.
Welcome. Well, happy birthday.
Yes, I was waiting for you to sing me happy birthday, but that might be the treat at the end.
Yeah, yep.
Behind the scenes content.
I don't want to hurt anyone's ears, but yeah, maybe later. But how does it feel to have accomplished so much in what is, in reality is a short space of time?
Yeah, it's been incredibly humbling. I think, hearing those accolades, I really reflect on my own journey. I started GirlBoss New Zealand at 16, and when I started it, it was the opportunities I've had have been beyond my wildest imagination.
Wow.
And they became possible not because I was the smartest person in the room or the most popular or because I followed the advice of Dr. Phil, but in fact because I was never afraid to take the uncommon path and to do things a little bit differently.
Wow. What was it like meeting Queen Elizabeth?
I get asked this question a lot. I mean, it was an incredible honour. So I was selected from over 20,000 nominations to be flown to Buckingham Palace and received a Queen's Young Leaders Award from Her Majesty the Queen in person at Buckingham Palace.
Crazy.
And
how did it all? Yeah. How was the experience?
Yeah. Well, I received the award at 19, so I'm the youngest Commonwealth citizen to receive this honour. But I remember I get this phone call where they basically say someone from the team at the royal family says, Alexia, we're flying you over to Buckingham Palace. You're receiving this medal from the Queen. And I sort of hang up the phone. And the absolute first thing I think is, OMG, what am I going to wear? So literally, and they so my focus, like, I'm going to be real with you, my focus was just on what I was going to wear. So in the few months leading up to it, I literally, my entire brain was just like, what am I going to wear? What am I going to wear? I'm sure some people listening now can relate to this. They're like, that's where your focus is. And so it wasn't until I got to Buckingham Palace and they announced my name, Alexia Hilbertidou from New Zealand, and I had to march down the aisle to meet the Queen, that I thought to myself for the first time, what am I going to say? Because I'd spent so many months focused on what I was going to wear. I wasn't until I was in this room that I had to think about what I was going to say. So I'm walking down the aisle. I get to the Queen. I do my curtsy, which was well practiced. And the first thing I said to the Queen was this. Hello. Did you know there's more CEOs named John than CEOs who are women on the New Zealand Stock Exchange? That was the first thing I said to the Queen. Now, the Queen, she reacted very similar to you. She just burst out laughing. So the Queen is literally laughing at me. And then I say, but don't worry. The young women of New Zealand that I work with are going to change this. And the Queen, she sort of pulls herself together, stops laughing, and then just replies, very good. So the point of the story is the Queen believes in us, but it was so funny.
That's awesome.
Because
that is awesome.
If you see the photo,
I've seen the video.
Yeah. You've seen the video. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you see the grand there's a grand ballroom, but there's actually a media room next door. So you kind of go in, you get your medal, and then you walk into the media room. And in the media room they're all watching what's happening on a screen. And so I walk into this room and media from all over the world like run to me. Like I'm like the hot commodity, because they're like, we just saw on the Queen that you made on the screen, you made the Queen laugh. What did you say? And so then I tell them, and I can just see like all these reporters like be slightly confused, and they're like, wow, this girl is weird. But I did end up being a Daily Mail clickbait article. Click here to find out what made the Queen laugh. So I think, that's insane. Being a Daily Mail clickbait article is pretty exciting.
Yeah.
But it was an amazing experience, and I got to meet some incredible people. David Beckham.
What?
Yeah, that was a funny story. I can. Yeah, it's so funny.
How did that even happen?
Yeah, so David Beckham is super connected within the royal family, and at the event, they had like celebrities from all over the world who were watching the ceremony, and so I'm in this room, and I look over, and I see David Beckham, one of the most famous celebrities in the world today, standing sad and lonely by the juice table.
He was by himself.
Yep. So I think to myself, well, I better do my good deed of the day.
It's my moment.
Yeah. And go cheer up David Beckham.
It was meant to be. It's a sign. It's a sign, Lord.
So I jump right up to David Beckham. I'm bouncing up to him. And I'm like, hi, David. And we're chatting away, and we're talking about New Zealand. We're talking about GirlBoss. We're talking about gender politics, the usual convo. And then a royal staffer walks up to David and I.
Yep.
And the royal staffer turns to us and says, excuse me, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, Prince Harry and Meghan request your presence.
Oh.
David goes, oh, mine. The royal staffer goes, oh, no, sorry, Miss Alexia's.
Not you.
And as I'm being escorted away from David Beckham, like, bye, David, to my one-on-one with Prince Harry and Meghan, I'm thinking to myself, my life will never top this level of cool. So that was pretty epic.
Oh, man, that's insane.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. You were invited into the special room over David Beckham. That's insane.
No, well, it was pretty epic, epic.
So tell me a bit about your upbringing and your family. You know, where'd you grow up?
Yeah. So I was raised in Calston, West Auckland. I don't know if we've got, any Westies listening now, but shout out. Yep. And I was raised by my mum who's Samoan, and I was raised by a single mum. And I think, being raised by a mum and who was everything to me. She was the matriarch, she was the provider, she was the protector. I really saw that strength and the power and potential of Pasifika woman from such a young age.
Awesome.
And my mum had me really young, and she made the decision to go to university and be the first in her family to do so.
Oh, wow.
Whilst I was a young child.
Wow.
And
that's not easy.
Yeah.
Like being single mum and then studying at the same time. Yeah.
Well, actually, it's a bit of a funny story. So I'm part Greek, part Samoan, and so...
Well, that's a beautiful blend, right?
Yeah, it's not
awesome.
super common. It's not. And actually, my mum was a young Kiwi backpacker on her very first OE in the Greek islands. She met my dad at a gay nightclub in Mykonos, which I 9 months later was a souvenir from her very first Greek overseas experience. But he was the bouncer at the gay nightclub. So I feel like this was an impressive ability to identify the only straight man in the room. And then we come...
Not an easy thing to do.
No. So we come back so me and Mum come back to New Zealand. She had pockets full of life experience, but very devoid of cash. Gotcha. And I remember the first place we lived was at the back of a hairdressing salon. My mum worked 3 jobs and while studying full time. And we actually lived in like a studio apartment, so, kind of a room, so one room for the first 10 years of my life. Me and Mum split a room and there was a curtain in the middle. Wow. And I think I really remember my mum in these moments being really deliberate. She would always instill into me, this might be where we are, but this is not where you are going.
Awesome.
And she, through the power of financial literacy, through the power of really having faith and believing in her potential as a Pacifica woman, she went and completed her degree and became a primary school teacher. Wow. And then that's what really sort of elevated us out of that situation. And I feel really grateful and humbled to have that experience, and that's really what motivates me today.
Awesome. How does your Pacific kind of culture kind of shape your values as a leader, like then and now today, you know, running GirlBoss?
Yeah. Well, I feel really inspired by my Pacifica Nana. So she passed away actually a couple years before GirlBoss started, which this is probably the only sort of thing I'm like a little bit upset about in my journey, is that she never got to see GirlBoss. But I can still feel her, you know, her spirit and her watching from above and supporting the work and the mission that we do. But she truly embodied what we want our Pacifica woman to represent, in that she was such a strong leader. She dedicated her life to service, and she was a cancer. She had cancer for over 20 years.
Oh, wow.
And she was epic. Like, she would get up first thing in the morning and cook. So she had kidney cancer. She was in dialysis unit, but she'd get up like first thing in the morning, like 4 a.m. and bake for the entire dialysis unit at Auckland Hospital.
That's insane.
And she was so committed right throughout. Like, they were literally like, hey, you're going through chemotherapy, and she'll be like volunteering at like you know, in the community. And, you know, it was so amazing. At her funeral, so many people who we didn't even know would say, you know, she believed in me, she backed me, she gave me access to opportunities. Just before she passed away, she actually gave away her car to the grandson of one of her friends in the dialysis unit that she'd never met, who just got a job but didn't have a car to get to work each day. And she was like, you know what, I believe in you, even though I've never met you, and you just need that helping hand, and you need that opportunity so you can take my car. And I think that's incredible. Really what sort of inspires and motivates me, yeah, for sure.
Man, it's so cool. So let's talk about GirlBoss. Can you share the story of how it came to be?
Yeah. So I started GirlBoss when I was 16 in high school as a result of my own experiences. So in year 12, I was the only girl in my school's digital technology class. And later in year 13, I was the only girl in my advanced physics class. And I'd go to coding competitions and science competitions and regularly be one of 2-3 young women in the room. And I just couldn't understand when my female friends were so intelligent and so capable, but didn't always have the confidence to step into these spaces. And I really started to feel like the odd one out and question whether or not tech was the place for me. But a defining moment was, in fact, when I entered my very first coding competition when I was in high school. And after 2 full days of coding, I was delighted to be announced a winner. Now, this was pretty exciting.
Wow.
I was 16. I was on track to achieve my dreams. I just won a full ride scholarship to study computer science, a paid job at IBM, and all of the technology equipment I could possibly imagine. Yeah. So as you can imagine, the next day I walk into my tech class and I'm feeling pretty cool.
Yep.
You know, I'm expecting a bit of fanfare, to be honest. You know, maybe a standing ovation as I walked into the room. Maybe the computer in the computer lab would be engraved in my honor.
I did it, guys.
Alexia coded here. Just some of the sort of standard fanfare I was expecting. But instead I got a completely different reaction. When my teacher announced the news to the boys in my class, they replied with, "You only won because you're a girl." They probably just wanted you for the promotional ads. I thought that was quite the compliment, actually. Girls' brains are smaller than boys' brains. It's been scientifically proven. and that's why they're not in tech. Yes, really, all the way back in 2015, not the 1950s.
Yeah.
And I
That's
remember,
crazy.
sitting alone in this classroom and hearing these comments. And I actually really broke down. I was really distraught by this. And they say injustice is a great place for resolve to take hold. So spurred by this feeling and the injustice of it, I started GirlBoss not long after. And it then grew to be what it is today, which is New Zealand's largest organisation for young women. It's our 10th year now, so 10 years since I've sat alone in that classroom. And we've got 17,500 members, which is roughly 1 in 7 of all high school age young women. And all of our programs are free for young women. We've raised millions of dollars to make sure that we can continue that mission of putting opportunities in the hands of young women across the country.
That's amazing. Well done.
Thank you.
That's crazy, because that's tough when you've done it. You've proved them all that you could win, and then they just shoot you down like that. That's insane.
Yeah, I think, reflecting back, 10 years later since I've been in that classroom, I realize now that I don't need their praise for I can praise myself.
Yes.
I don't need them to see my value because I can value myself. And I don't need validation from others to say, hey, you're worthy, because we can actually tell ourselves that we're worthy.
100%.
And that's really my message that I would love, anyone listening now is to really, when it comes to money, when it comes to business, to actually make that conscious decision to tell yourself, I'm worthy of a wealthy life.
Yeah.
My family are worthy of this.
That's so good.
I'm worthy of living to my highest potential. And actually, when I can elevate myself, that enables me to bring my own values to play and to better serve my community and better serve my family.
Yeah. Awesome. So that was, obviously devastating, but solidifying for you. What other challenges did you face, in starting at 16? Like being young, has that kind of held you back, or from the outside, people looking in?
I mean, what was one of the biggest challenges was just that growth happened so quickly and really beyond anything I could have imagined. I mean, just to sort of put context in, I mean, we're pretty much completely funded by corporate organizations. And I remember I was 16 and I was in school and my mum had to drop me off at my very first sponsorship meeting to ask for like $5,000 for one of our first events.
Wow.
And my mum was like hyperventilating in the car, like because no one in my family had ever stepped into a corporate space. Like she didn't even want to come in with me. I'd never stepped into an office before. I didn't know the only person still in my entire extended family with a degree was my mum, who studied teaching. But I'd never, like right now I get to work with corporate organizations and I like go in and have a coffee in their offices. But that was so far beyond what I thought was normal, what my family thought was normal. So I think navigating that was a challenge, but also the imposter syndrome. I mean, I started GirlBoss because I was the only girl in my coding class, but I actually started it in the year 2015. And fun fact, the dictionary word of the year was feminism. So you know how they have that dictionary word of the year and like sums up the year?
Yeah.
So it was feminism. So I kind of launched GirlBoss at the ultimate time. So this was the time, you may remember this if you've got some, it depends on the age of people listening, but this was the time where Beyonce was performing at the Grammys with like feminists and big light up lights behind her. And it was kind of like a thing where they'd like ask celebrities, are you a feminist? Are you a feminist? So it was like a super perfect timing to start something like GirlBoss.
Wow.
But it also meant it was such a sort of cultural revolution that I started GirlBoss, and then next minute media would like come to me and I kind of became this really like the face of this new feminist wave. And the room next to my principal's office at my high school kind of got converted into a media room because I had so much media coming to the school.
Really?
And at this point, GirlBoss was only a few months old. I think a few months into it, I won the Women of Influence Award, which is given to the most influential woman under 25 in the country. And so I had this massive platform, and I would just sit there and watch my emails, and I'd see all these emails come in from schools, teachers, parents, everyone like wanting to get on board this whole wave. But that incredible growth also came with an incredible amount of imposter syndrome, because I started to ask myself, who am I, to be worthy of this?
Yep.
Am I the right person to lead this charge?
Can I even do this?
Can I even do this?
Yeah,
100%. And so that was the most difficult thing to navigate, was that I was going into meetings, never stepped foot in an office, any form of office before. Suddenly I'm pitching, trying to get funding to like the C-suite across corporate New Zealand.
Yeah, wow.
And through that, I just had to be so vigilant on my mindset. Like I would repeat mantras to myself, and I would actually use the incredible tool of gratitude. So I'd be feeling feelings of fear, but I would say, I am so lucky that I get to be in this room today. I'm so lucky that I'm the only young person in the room today. I'm so lucky that I'm the only Pacifica person in the room today.
I like it.
That I get to represent my community. I'm not walking into this room alone. And even if you're not really feeling it, to be honest, still repeating those mantras and saying, isn't it great that I can provide my unique perspective, just keep, chanting that is so important. I really recommend that as a strategy.
100%. I know throughout my banking career, the more promotions that I got, the higher up I got into certain levels of banking, the less Pacifica I would see. And then the more imposter syndrome would come upon me and go, who do you think you are? There's no one else who's Pacifica here. Why do you think you could be in here? But I started to do the same thing. I'm like, no, you were born for this, Willie. You're supposed to be here.
Yeah.
You're meant to be here. You're here for a reason.
Yeah. And tap into that why is everything. And I mean, I still do that. I mean, I'll get, and so often you get these opportunities. I'm so grateful for them. But, I'm going to be really real with our listeners now. I'll get a phone call and it'll be like, Alexia, it's the breakfast show. We want you to come in and answer some questions on women in leadership. Can you come in? And you kind of get these phone calls, and then usually sometimes even the day or so before, you get these phone calls. And I'm going to be really real. It's like, do I want to get up at 6 a.m, do my makeup in the dark, travel across town, sit in a green room and check for sweat marks, and then go and potentially embarrass myself on national television? And I'm like, if you are, and they always say do you want to do it? And they've got such a beautiful, enthusiastic tone in their voice. And you're like, do I want to do that? Probably not. If we're going purely on what makes me feel good, no, what makes me feel good is sleeping in and not doing, not potentially
100%.
Embarrassing myself on national television. That makes me feel good. Yes. But I think what my mum says to me in these moments is, Alexia, you can't complain about the lack of female role models if you refuse to be one.
Yo, that's so good.
And I encourage our listeners to sort of infill their own communities into that. No matter what communities you represent, we might have people listening here who are Pacifica, who are Māori, who, maybe they're from regional New Zealand, maybe they're just representing their family. You are actually, by living to your highest potential, you're elevating your entire community.
Yes.
And the reality is, when I say yes to those opportunities, it's not because it feels really good and it's a really fun time. It's because I'm like, well, when someone turns on the TV, they may see a Pacifica young girl. Yep. And the reality is, if we refuse to step up and take space, there's not necessarily other people in the wings.
Who's going to do it?
Exactly. Yeah. And I really encourage everyone listening, if there's ever an opportunity to represent your community, to really take that in your stride.
That's awesome. That is awesome. You're talking about, pitching in front of, C-suite to get fundraising. And, it's often a challenge. How did you secure, financial resources to get GirlBoss started?
Yeah, that is a great question, because everything we do at GirlBoss is free for young women. And that's through intensive hustling 24/7 that
so hustle
real hard. And what's so hard is, we've been going for 10 years now, but in those early years, it is 10 times harder. And I want to shout out anyone who's in those early years of business, because
how resilient do you have to be?
I mean, it's a challenge because you're going in there super fresh, right? Like they might not be familiar with your business. They're not familiar with your values, what you stand for. So you need to like work 10 times harder. Like I need to work 10 times harder in those early stages than I do now because they don't know who you are. So kind of finding ways in.
Gotcha.
What I would say, and this is particularly a very maybe Pacifica lens to business, is just focus on building trust as quickly as possible.
Yep. Cool.
Focus on building that relationship and just focus on really seeing them as a human and connecting them with them on that level.
Awesome.
And then trust those other things will follow. Because people like to work with people that they trust. People like to work with people that you can, well, maybe it's just me, but people like to work with people that you can trust in their values and trust in who they are. So, don't be afraid to let all of you show, let all of you shine. If you're in the early stages of business, that's what people are going to connect to because you don't have the benefits of, having the most scale or the benefits of the most experience necessarily. But if you can bring your full personality, that can be a real gift.
That's cool. And that's one of our kind of natural strengths as Pacifica is like we're good with people. Like we are people to people type of people, if that makes sense. Yeah. It kind of plays to our strengths.
100%. And what's so important in Pacifica is that we let that shine in all situations. And what I would see, and we place young women into corporate apprenticeship programs and internship style programs that we run, is sometimes we'll have our most amazing Pacifica woman who I know through GirlBoss. They're super confident. And what I was seeing is that when they'd step into these corporate environments, they're like, okay, the first thing I'm going to do is strip away all of my personality but as quickly as possible, right? And I was like, no, don't do that. So we've actually had to rechange how we do it, where we spend the first few days just GirlBoss and the young woman kind of gearing them up to really embrace themselves and embrace what they bring to that space before we, they have that experience. And we found that completely transformed outcomes because in those 2 days where I was working with them, alone, I was really instilling that importance of that's actually your gift. Yeah. And you can't be stripping away your personality. You can't be trying to be the blandest person in the room. Yes. It's best to instead just embrace your gift. And people actually, if you're confident within yourself, people do respond positively.
Yeah,
people,
that's awesome.
Apart from a few, exceptions, people want people that are comfortable in themselves and who bring in their full selves there, as a general rule.
Yes. Yeah,
as a general rule. So I would encourage,
because it's our superpower, right? Yeah. There's no point height. Yeah.
Yeah, some of the coolest peeps, in corporate New Zealand are Māori and Pacifica, and people love them, but they bring their full selves and they're comfortable within that. Yeah, and that's a huge piece around making sure that you're filling up your own cup and you're really rewarding and valuing yourself.
Yeah, awesome. GirlBoss is focused on empowering young women in leadership and STEM. Why do you think these areas are critical for women to break into?
Yeah, I'm so passionate about future-focused industries.
Yeah.
So that's science, tech, engineering, maths. We work with a number of industries, but all industries which are set to grow. And I really see it as not just about you need to go suddenly big software engineers, but more that we should just see this as a natural tool in our repertoire of talents. So, don't be afraid if there's an opportunity to upskill technically, to be open to that. Don't be afraid to, upskill around AI and automation and implement that into no matter what career or industry you're in, because it's so important that we're in that wave.
That's right.
And I really want our Pacifica people, our Māori people, our regional, rural New Zealand to be in that wave and to not miss out on some incredible opportunities.
We don't want to miss it, eh?
Yeah, 100%. And if you look at all the future-focused skills and what the research shows, which is what can't be automated, which is relationship building, community building, critical thinking, problem-solving skills, I think that our Māori and Pacifica people are really equipped to be leaders in this space. And so it's just so important that we're keeping our knowledge up to date. And that's what I really advocate for our young women, because I really want our young people to be in highly paid fields. And I want them to be in fields and industries where they're paid well, where they're respected, where there's like plentiful opportunities, and they can really like have an incredible career. That's what I want for them.
Awesome. You've probably had a lot of successes. Is there any kind of successes through GirlBoss that just sticks out in your mind that you can share with us?
So many. I think I'm really proud of our work around the GirlBoss Awards. Cool. So we've raised over $500,000 to give cash grants to over 83 young women.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
All aged 11 to 18 who have started their own social impact initiatives. So some of them have started like women's STEM clubs or podcasts or all sorts of cool organizations, charities, initiatives, businesses.
Oh, that's so cool.
Also young women in the arts and sport. And this is what I'm so proud of, because we need to really create a culture where we're prioritizing collaboration over competition. And actually, I haven't spoken about this before, but one of the inspirations to start the GirlBoss Awards was when I had a meeting with someone that it was only a one-off meeting, but he said to me, this GirlBoss thing, you better move quickly and you better scale quickly, because, I've heard there's lots of other young women out there who are doing initiatives, and, they might be a threat to you soon, and you've kind of got first mover, benefit. So you better keep growing, and like, so you can overtake them. And it was like this like immensely competitive response, and that's really not my style. And I remember walking away from this, I'm like, if my mission is to advance young women, and my mission is to create a culture where everyone sees themselves as change makers and can start their own initiatives, why would I be viewing all of that as competitors? They are furthering the mission.
Yes.
I was like, and so I really wanted to create the GirlBoss Awards as a sort of a response to that conversation, and to say, we're giving you a cash grant, we're connecting you with other young change makers, we're giving you a platform, we're giving you profile, we're giving you media, we're making a beautiful gala dinner. And that was really that response, because I just really can't vibe with that competitiveness.
There's kind of a scarcity mindset in a way. If it's either you or no one else. Or,
100%.
You have to go first, or you're going to lose what you have. Type thing.
Exactly. You're right. It is scarcity mindset. It's not trusting in your own worth, that your that you bring value, and it's also, what it's doing is it's really creating a culture of fear.
That's it.
Yeah. And I really encourage.
Then you start making decisions out of fear, which always end up in a bad place.
Yeah, and we've got to be careful too, particularly as minorities, because sometimes we can be so hyper aware of the fact that we're the only person in the room, and that's our, we're the only young woman here. And so then we see someone else and we go, they're taking my spot because I've fought so hard to get my one little folding chair at the table that's kind of wonky, and they might take my one chair. And instead, we need to be creating a culture of like, we need to be pulling out way more chairs at the table. We can't be fighting over this one rickety chair.
That's right.
We want to be pulling out more chairs and trying not to see them as competitors. And I don't actually blame people that have this mindset, particularly from minority backgrounds, because so often women and other minorities will be competed against each other. I know another Pacifica business person, we're not even in the same industries, but, maybe you guys are competition, or like, you're the only other one I know. And so it really creates this weird competitive culture, and it's so important to be conscious and then just to opt out of that completely, because it's really not the vibe.
Big time. What lessons in leadership have you learned through your journey with GirlBoss? If you're serious about buying your first home, make sure you check out the First Home Buyers Masterclass. In this masterclass, we take you through the whole home buying journey, from getting pre-approved, finding your property, to settling. This will take out a lot of the confusion and make your home buying journey a lot easier. Make sure you check out the link below for our masterclass.
One of the key lessons I learnt actually came from one of the best pieces of advice I was ever given, which is actually from Jamie Oliver.
No way.
Yeah. So Jamie Oliver is a celebrity chef, for those listening who don't know. I think he's worth $500 million. He's actually the second most sold author in the UK after J.K. Rowling. And
is he? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he sells. I remember walking into his HQ in Jamie Oliver HQ, and you walk in and it's just, you walk through rooms and rooms of like tea towels, knives, like ready cooked meals, every single, like anything you could possibly find in a kitchen. Around the globe, like ready meals, restaurants, like he has got a machine. And I remember, and also you walk in and there's like heaps of cooking going on, so it's like really exciting, and like all these meals being pumped out because everyone's like testing out recipes for his, and he's like walks around, there's all these commercial kitchens, like quite exciting office to be in, and everyone gets free food. Everyone gets free food, so I was happy. So I was sitting down with my free meal with Jamie Oliver, and he likes to mentor young activists, so I was really lucky to be selected through that. And he started by sharing his own journey, and he said, Alexia, when I started my very first restaurant at age 25, I made the decision to only employ people from the following backgrounds. 1, be homeless. 2, have drug and alcohol problems. Or 3, just left prison. So that was the criteria for who could work at Jamie's very first restaurant.
That documentary. I mean, it showed that it was the reality TV show.
100%. And when he shared that vision with the people around him, they thought he was absolutely nuts. His own father didn't speak to him for a year, as they thought Jamie was throwing away his life to give a hand up to others. But Jamie's decision to do something different propelled him and his restaurant into global fame. Once people heard about the mission, they were waiting months in advance to get a table. That decision was the single most decision which completely changed Jamie's life forever. And he shared that story with me, and then he said, Alexia, when you walk into a boardroom, when you walk into a meeting, who is the person that holds the most power? The one with the most hope. Be the one with hope. Be the one with vision. Be the one with optimism. And I think in New Zealand, we tend to shrink ourselves and make ourselves smaller. But when we project hope and vision, we give permission to others to do the same.
Oh, that is amazing.
Yeah, and I would see that in his leadership. He would, in meetings, say, are we being the most hopeful versions of ourselves? Could we be more optimistic? How would we approach this if we were leading with more vision? And he's done some incredible things around transforming school lunches in the UK and some incredible things, but really from that belief of how do we be the most hopeful version of ourselves?
Sheesh. That's great. What are some of the biggest misconceptions about women in leadership or STEM that you've encountered?
Biggest misconceptions about women in leadership. I would say that there is a lot of narrative around the importance of being perfect. And I think so many women, because they've fought so hard to get into that space and they've been really rewarded for their perfectionism, it really creates this feeling that they must continue to be perfect and they must continue to give 100% in all areas of their life, 110% in all areas of their life. And if they're not 100% perfect in every single area of their life, then they're failing. And in reality, if you want to step into business, you need to accept that you may not always be able to be the most beyond perfect friend in all situations, the beyond perfect family member in all situations. Sometimes, you might not be able to turn up to the dinner party with like a cooked Basque cheesecake that you've spent 3 hours the night before and soaking the strawberries in champagne or whatever. You might just need to pick up a Cheesecake Factory, cake on the way. And so I think, that's something that I'd really challenge so many women listening is how hard am I being on myself? Because I really question whether young men are putting the same pressure to not only succeed in their careers, but also to go above and beyond in domestic tasks, to also go above and beyond in putting pressure on themselves in the way they look, right? to always to look a certain way, to do everything perfectly. And that can really lead you feeling fully burnt out.
Yeah.
And I mean, we even have a little sticker, little Post-it note, and it's like your number one job in the GirlBoss HQ. And on this Post-it note it says, your number one job is to keep your cup full. Yeah. Because we really believe that if everyone in the GirlBoss team is turning up with their cup full, we can better serve young women. But if we're turning up burnt out, if we're turning up feeling bad about ourselves, if we're turning up feeling pressure because we didn't make the perfect birthday cake with the perfect birthday card and done all the perfect things, then you're not going to be able to serve anyone. Yep. And you can actually be at the risk of being resentful. You can be at the risk of being, feeling out of control in your life. And I really encourage women to shift their own expectations for themselves and ensure they're not putting too much pressure on themselves, because that's just going to hold you back and it's actually not going to benefit you and your ability to serve others.
Yeah, big time. How do you keep your cup full?
I spend a lot of time with my family.
Yeah, cool.
And I think, I'm really grateful. I have like super glamorous experiences. I just got back from Switzerland where I was at the World Economic Forum.
That, yeah.
And, I get to do these really sort of like fun, glamorous things. And I speak at, over 100 schools. And so I do all this stuff. And then but the reality is that is about, 30% of my life. And then the rest of my life, I've like kept like the ultimate bland grandma life. Like literally I live in Aotearoa. All my family live there. I don't even live in the city. And I'll go for walks with my granddad like 3 times a week.
Wow.
I'll, spend so much time with my family, reading,
so cool.
Just like chilling. And I think, making sure that the rest of my life is pretty peaceful and pretty chill and just really with my own family and with my own, spending time with my cousins, my auntie. I see my auntie like 3 or 4 times a week.
That's great.
I see my mum every day. I see my sister every day. I see my stepdad every day. So I think that really helps me be able to navigate those other, more
kind of
high energy.
Yeah, because it requires a lot.
Yeah. And so I feel like, particularly if you're in your 20s, there's so much pressure to be like, oh, I need to be, partying. I need to be like hanging out with all my friends. Like, oh, my life's not super exciting. Like every time I go on Instagram, everyone's life looks super exciting.
Having fun. I'm not having fun.
I'm just chilling at home reading. But I'm like, you know what? Keep up that, And we've got to be realistic.
We do.
If you want opportunities that not many people get, you need to make choices that not many people make.
That's right.
And sometimes that means that you're just spending your Saturday night resting, recovering, and getting ready for a good week ahead.
Yep.
And there's no shame in that.
It's like being, I suppose, I don't know what it's like, but like when I see an elite sports person, they do everything it takes to get their body in shape, their mind in shape to play the best that they can. And there's, that skill, those behaviours are transferable to running a business or
yeah, exactly. Like they're not
career.
Drinking every night. They live super clean and healthy lives. So I have a few friends who are high level athletes, and you're right. I love this. We're just like high level athletes. I think it's what you're saying.
That's what I'm trying to say without saying.
and everyone listening, if you're ever alone on a Saturday night, just remind yourself, I am an All Black in training. Really,
pretty much. I'm getting my sleep.
Yes, it's some of those boring things. Get the boring things right, fam, and you can be a cool athlete like us.
That's right. Elite athletes. Who's inspired you the most on your journey?
I am inspired by so many. You know what? I'm actually inspired by young women. That is who give me the most energy, because that is like the resilience of the young women of this nation is incredible.
Yeah, wow.
We've got a huge focus on rural and regional New Zealanders. And, one of my proudest moments was actually a program, one of our GirlBoss Edge programs, which was focused on young women in the primary sector.
Okay.
And so this was actually the largest initiative. I think we over about 5 years, 2,500 young women took part in this program. And this is young women, like the general sort of type of young woman in this program was a young woman who is in the middle of rural New Zealand, and she's like the only girl in her team ed class. And she's like turning up every day, she wants to be a farmer. She wants to be in the primary sector. Wow. And like she has got such immense challenges. And then we were creating this community of these thousands of girls from across the country. And these girls were like brought to tears. They're like, I've never in my life before this program met another girl who shares my passions. And they, in the face of, such a lack of community, such isolation, I think, 16% before the program said that they had role models in the sector. And then afterwards it was 100%. I think it was like 25% said they had a friend who shared their passion. Afterwards, it was like 99% because they all made friends. So I think, I'm so impressed by anyone out there who still maintains that passion, who still maintains that vision despite not having that community and connection. And our mission is to get that community and connection, and they all get mentors of women who are working in the primary sector. They get their own mentor. Wow. They take part in these programs. They make new friends. But what I didn't realize with that program and why it was actually so humbling to me is that it actually ended up being largely a mental health support program. I mean, the mental health of young people in rural and regional New Zealand, some of the stories we were hearing is incredibly low. And I think I was almost a little bit unequipped because I was kind of thinking it was more this primary sector program. And then these girls were saying like, I'm really struggling. I'm being bullied. There's a lot of, a lot of things were coming out. And I was almost unprepared. But over those 5 years, we really upskilled in that area. But that was definitely the most humbling work that I've ever done. And hearing from young women saying, I actually think this program saved my life. This program was the first time that I've ever felt truly accepted in a room. This program is the first time that I can see like a really positive future for myself. This is the first time I've ever felt like I can be myself in a space. And that is what gets me out of bed every morning. And that's why I'm like such a fierce advocate for anyone out there who's sitting there, they may be even listening to this now, who is maybe in a community, and I can relate to this, where they feel like the odd one out and they feel like they're not celebrated, but they still have that hunger and that drive and that desire. And they say, this might be where I am, but it's not where I'm going.
Awesome. Cool. Let's talk about personal finances. What money mistakes have you made in the past?
I think the number one mistake that I've made is that I wasn't always prepared for every storm. I think, there's that great saying that it's like, in a storm, prepare for good weather. In a good weather, prepare for a storm. Which is that when you're going through hard times, remember that hope is still out there. But when times are really good, make sure you're preparing for when things might shift.
Yeah, 100%. That's so good.
And when we were where GirlBoss really struggled was actually in COVID. So this was, we were like really on top of the world at this point going into COVID. We were like feeling really up, and we had like all our in-person, all of our initiatives were in person. And then suddenly COVID happens. I was supposed to be in Christchurch running this 5-day camp for aspiring female engineers that first week of lockdown. And then suddenly everything stopped. We had pretty much all of our corporate funding pulled away from us. I remember I'd look at the emails that just coming in. Even sometimes sponsors, even sponsors that had contracts with us. So they were like
an
agreed.
Annual or
they
yearly.
were agreed.
Yep.
And we basically had to say, you know what? And I remember me and Mum were talking about it because we're like, they're coming to us. They actually, technically we could say, no, you do need to keep funding. Like we've signed an agreement. And I remember Mum saying to me, you know what? Let's just have faith. If they want to walk away, they've been good to us in the past, even though we're losing, 70% of our funding. Yeah. We're going to let them
70%.
Yeah, within the space of a month. We're going to let anyone who wants to walk away, you can walk away. And we actually said, thank you so much for the support you've given us and best of luck. And, thanks for everything you've done. And that was really hard at that moment because, a lot of the work we'd already completed particularly for this camp, right? Like we'd already prepared for it. We've already funded lots of things, but when we don't get paid until the work's done or until set funding things. So we were literally not only losing money, but already on the back foot for work we'd already done. And this was so difficult. But I think in this time, just coming with, that complete faith and saying, and what's been amazing is that we let those funders walk away, and they came to us and they said, thanks so much. I remember it. I remember what you did.
Wow.
And like, hey, we'd love to work together. And they like moved to a different company. They're like, hey, we remember you acted in good faith. Wow. And not all of our organizations or people we worked with did do that.
Yeah,
and so I think,
interesting.
That's what I would say. But I think also it's so important to always have your buffers, have your safety nets so you are prepared for those moments. And I think I wasn't quite prepared for that at that time at the level that I could have been. So I think, that's really important. Always have your safety net and remember that you need to also have hope in those times as well.
Because it's not always going to go your way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes there is nothing you can do about it.
Yeah. But have faith. I think good people always win in the end. The good guys always win.
Yeah.
And if
That's so cool.
Yeah, I believe that.
That's so cool. What's the best piece of financial advice you've ever received?
Best piece of financial advice I've ever received is pay yourself first.
Nice. I like that. Yeah.
Pay yourself first. So what does pay yourself first mean? Pay yourself first means when you get money that lands into your bank account, you pay yourself first by putting it into your savings. You pay yourself first when you put it into your Sharesies account. You pay yourself first when you pay off debt. You don't pay yourself first when you go and you give it to glaçons. You're not paying yourself. You're putting you're not paying yourself. You're paying the bar owner. You're paying the Burger King. You're paying others, right? But when you put it into your own savings, your own investings, view it. It's not, I'm missing out on owning, a new dress from glaçons. See it as I've actually decided to put myself first, my financial future first, and feel empowered by that decision. Saving and investing is not something that's happening to you, but something that you are choosing as an empowered person to do. And I love it because I feel like you can reframe it and it can be super empowering. You're like, you know what? I'm choosing to be financially savvy. And that's kind of a boss move. Not consuming items is a boss move. Yeah. Not being, some sort of robot who's just like, I need to hyper consume and own everything. Honestly, like repeating an outfit, boss move. Yeah. And be unapologetic in it and pay yourself first and put your investment into yourself. Don't put your money into the hands of,
so good.
Random Burger Kings and random glaçons.
Other companies.
Yeah.
Other businesses.
Yeah.
Pay your business.
Yes. Yeah, that's what you say. You can call it your own your own limited, Alexia Limited. I love that.
That's awesome. If you could collaborate with any organisation or leader in the world, who would that be and why?
Like a huge partnership with like a massive NGO, like a Melinda Gates Foundation or something like this. Some sort of like massive funder that would support our work internationally would be really cool. But honestly, some of my dream organizations I've already worked with, which is pretty cool.
Wow,
I'm really proud of the work we do with National Geographic. So I was super lucky. A few years ago, I was the first Pacifica person to be named a National Geographic Young Explorer.
Oh my gosh.
And this is incredible. I mean, National Geographic Explorers program is one of the most incredible communities of conservationists and scientific storytellers. And through this opportunity, I've been able to work with young people all across the world. Through our partnership with National Geographic Classroom, we just wrapped up a 6-week STEM program in Palau. So this was epic. So we were working with 72% of all young people aged 5 to 18 in the island of Palau. We had the Ministry of Education in Palau come on board and support this program. And they took part over 6 weeks in weekly STEM challenges around climate change. And so we were supporting and equipping these young people around climate change and advocacy. And this was one of my proudest moments because we were working with communities like Anga Elementary School, and that's on Anga Island in Palau. And the population of Anga Island is 112 people.
No way.
And this was so awesome because we were doing all these programs virtually. They set up like Palau, National Geographic sent, and the Ministry of Education Palau set all the tech up. So they were all sitting, like I would be like looking into Anga Island speaking. I'd look through and it would be like the school hall of like 30 kids, which is every single young person on Anga Island. Like they're all just sitting there looking up at the screen as I'm like talking to them in the little hall, and I could like look down and see them. And then like one of them would come and ask a question. It was like so epic. But we had like hundreds of these kids, and we had kids from over 28 countries around the world take part in this. It was so popular. The Ministry of Education in the Solomon Islands asked us to do a 4-week version where we worked with over 30 schools in the Solomon Islands. And this was so amazing because always at the core of GirlBoss is like that idea of the odd one out, that person who's sitting there no matter where you are in the world, no matter what small town you're in, what small island you're in, what community you're in, like you can be part of this and we believe in your potential. So I think that was pretty sick working with, and like, you know, I've worked with a young woman in the UAE, the Filipino homeschool network, which would be like so incredible. These like, next minute, there's like a 10-year-old Filipino student asking some really hard scientific question that I don't know the answer to, and like it was amazing,
just on the spot.
Yeah, literally. And it was so epic. So I think some of that global work is pretty out there. And
that's so cool.
I've also did three documentaries last year. In Fiji. So that was really epic around Pacifica storytelling. That was specifically around raising awareness around the biodiversity in the Pacific, and really exciting, which is that also was part of a National Geographic documentary, which is going to be airing on Disney Plus later this year. So this was like a pretty life. I think maybe working with Disney or Nat Geo, I think is probably pretty peak.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
So you've already done that question that I've asked you.
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty excited. Like the Disney vibe. Like I've been to their Nat Geo headquarters in Washington DC and everything. Okay. It's quite a vibe. It really is.
I bet.
I still haven't made it to Disneyland though. That's on my bucket list.
Oh yeah. It's good.
You've been?
I've been. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's fun. Yeah. Which one?
Orlando.
Oh, that's the big one. Yeah, that's the big one.
That's cool. It's real cool. In terms of GirlBoss and its vision going forward, what is the big dream for it? So, you know, we're 10 years into GirlBoss now, but we're really just getting started. Yeah, I think it's only now into, you know, a decade of running this that we are in our stride in terms of building a trusted legacy brand. And I really kind of want to share that message for anyone who might be in the early stages of their business. I love that quote. We overestimate what we can do in a year, but we underestimate what we can do in a lifetime. Yes. And it's really only been in 10 years of GirlBoss that I think we're getting into our stride in terms of our impact. And so I would say, you know, we want to continue serving our young women here, continue being a home for any ambitious young person out there who has a dream and is hungry and wants to go out there and reach their highest potential, but then also expanding further throughout the Pacific. I was spending a lot of time in Fiji last year, spending more time in Fiji this year, and continuing our work around scientific storytelling in the Pacific, 100%. And then, you know, maybe looking even further abroad would be pretty exciting as well. But that core principles of free for young women and is really at the core of what we do. So cool. And finally, I ask this question to all of my guests. What does wealth mean to you?
Oh, I love this question. I think what wealth means to me is the ability to be financially free and in control of your life, to walk away from any situation that doesn't serve you, to better serve your community, and to have life be joyous and free from friction of daily challenges. There still is daily challenges, but money does a great job at sort of softening that blow. And so I really don't want to underestimate the importance around money and the sort of capitalist society we live in. And so I really encourage anyone out there to not be afraid to aspire to elevate themselves and their family and their community, and to really realize that they are worthy of a wealthy life.
So good. So good. Alexia, it's been such a pleasure having you on Fresh Moni. I wish you, your family, and GirlBoss all the very best in the future. I hope you reach and exceed those dreams for GirlBoss. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. It's been amazing to be here with everyone.